Hey guys, I hope you all are doing great and having great life. Today I have come with a very interesting lesson. If you want to improve your spoken English, I have made a story and with the help of me, you will be speaking English. There are some couple of steps that you need to follow. The very first step is that I will be telling you a story, and during telling you the story, I will be asking you some questions. You have to listen to the story actively, and when I ask you the questions, the second step is that you have to respond to those questions. You have to say the answers of the questions that I ask you during the story. And the third step is that after completing the story, you can repeat the same process every day, at least a week, if you want to improve with your spoken English. And if you show some love to these kinds of lessons, I will be making you more such kinds of lessons. Without any delay, let's go to the lesson.
Before we begin the speaking lesson, there are some words that I would like to tell you. You can skip this vocabulary portion using YouTube chapters once you know the meanings and proper usage of the words that I'm going to explain. My recommendation for you is to listen to it for a few days and then you can directly begin with the main lesson. So, let me start with the vocabulary section. Dream. To dream typically means experiencing a series of images, thoughts, and emotions while you are asleep. However, in this lesson, we are using it in a different context where it means to have a strong desire to do something or achieve something. For example, I dream of becoming a pilot, which means the same as I say, I have a strong desire to become a pilot. Time machine. A time machine is a machine that can travel through different times, like past and future. Sphere. A sphere is a three-dimensional geometric shape that is perfectly round, like a ball. To understand a sphere, you can take examples such as a football or the earth. They both have a spherical shape, which means they are rounded like a ball. Step inside. To step inside means to physically enter or move into something. It implies the action of taking a step or steps to enter. Disappear. To disappear means something or someone overjoyed vanishes or becomes unseen. For example, the sun disappears at night. The reason why I take this silly example is to help you understand the meaning of disappear. Strange. In simple words, strange means something very different. Imagine you have a red apple, but suddenly it turns bright blue. That would be strange because apples are not supposed to be blue, they are usually red or green. So strange means when something is very different from what you would expect normally. Gadget. A gadget is a small, cleverly designed device or tool that is often used for a specific purpose or task, like a smartphone. So, a smartphone is a gadget that helps you solve different problems. is an adjective which means being extremely happy or excited. Laboratory. A laboratory is a special room equipped with tools for scientists, researchers, or students to perform different experiments, tests, and scientific investigations to learn more about things. Now, it's time for our main lesson. Once upon a time, there was a brilliant scientist, and his name was Albert. And he dreamed of inventing a machine that could travel through time. Okay, time for some questions. Was there a poor scientist? No, there was not a poor scientist. So, was there a brilliant scientist? Yes, there was. There was a brilliant scientist. Was his name Tom? No, his name was not Tom. So, was his name Jack? No, his name wasn't Jack. So, what was his name? Albert. His name was Albert. So, what was the brilliant scientist's name? Albert. The brilliant scientist's name was Albert. What did Albert want to invent? A machine. Albert wanted to invent a machine. What kind of machine did he want to invent? A time machine. He wanted to invent a machine that could travel through time. So tell me, what is a time machine? A time machine is a machine that can travel through time. Well, Albert had been working so hard to make a time machine for many years. And finally, he succeeded. Okay, so tell me this now. Who had been working so hard for making a time machine? Albert. Albert had been working so hard for making a time machine. Had he been working for 2 years to make the time machine? No, he had not been working for 2 years to make the time machine. So, for how many years had he been working to make the time machine? For many years. He had been working for many years to make the time machine. Do we know the exact amount of time it took him to invent the time machine? No, we don't know. We don't know the exact amount of time it took him to invent the time machine. Did he succeed in making the time machine? Yes, he did. He succeeded in making the time machine. Who succeeded in making the time machine? Albert. Albert the scientist succeeded in making the time machine. Well, Albert's time machine was a small silver sphere. He stepped inside and set the controls for the past. With a flash of light, the time machine disappeared. Was Albert's time machine super big? No, it wasn't. Albert's time machine was not super big. So was it small? Yes, it was small. Albert's time machine was small. What did it look like? It looked like a small silver sphere. What looked like a small silver sphere? The time machine. Albert's time machine looked like a small silver sphere. So, did Albert invent a gadget that could travel through time? Yes, he did. Albert invented a gadget that could travel through time. And how long did it take Albert to invent the gadget? It took him many years to invent the gadget. What did he do after inventing the time machine? After inventing the time machine, he stepped inside and set the controls for the past. And who stepped inside the time machine? Obviously, Albert did. Albert stepped inside the time machine. What did he do after he stepped inside the time machine? Well, he set the controls for the past. Albert set the controls for the past. And who set the controls for the past? Albert. Albert set the controls for the past. What happened when Albert set the controls for the past? Well, the machine disappeared. The time machine disappeared. What disappeared? Time machine. The time machine disappeared. Well, when the time machine disappeared, Albert found himself in a world that was completely different from his own world. The people were dressed in strange clothes, and the buildings were also very strange. He had never seen such buildings before. So tell me, where did Albert find himself? He found himself in a world that was completely different from his own world. Did the people dress like Albert? No, they did not dress like Albert. They dressed differently. The people dressed differently. So, is it true that people were dressed in strange clothes? Yes, it is. It is true that people were dressed in strange clothes. Okay, so tell me, how were the buildings? The buildings were very strange. Were they completely different? Yes, they were very strange. The buildings were very strange from Albert's world. Had he seen such buildings before? No, never. He had never seen such buildings before. Who had never seen such buildings before? Albert. Albert had never seen such buildings before. So, was it the first time he saw such strange buildings? Yes, it was the first time he saw such strange buildings. Well, Albert spent several days exploring the past. He learned a lot about history and science. What did he spend several days exploring? He spent several days exploring the past. And who spent several days exploring the past? Albert. Albert spent several days exploring the past. Why did he spend several days exploring the past? Well, obviously, to learn about history and science. He spent several days exploring the past so he could learn about history and science. Did he learn about history and science? Yes, he did. He learned a lot about history and science. Well, eventually, it was time for Albert to return to his own time. Albert stepped back into the time machine and set the controls for the future. With another flash of light, the time machine disappeared. Albert found himself back in his own laboratory. He was overjoyed because he had finally achieved his dream of traveling through time. Okay, time for some last questions. Who found himself in his laboratory? Albert. Albert found himself in his laboratory. And who was overjoyed? Albert. Albert was overjoyed. Why was he overjoyed? Because he had finally achieved his dream. Albert was overjoyed because he had finally achieved his dream. What kind of dream had he achieved? A dream of traveling through time. He had achieved his dream of traveling through time. So, was Albert very happy after he had achieved his dream? Yes, he was overjoyed, which means the same as I say, he was very happy after he had achieved his dream. And what was his dream? His dream was to make a gadget that could travel through time. And that is the end of this lesson. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. See you in the next lesson. Bye.